19th December 2021, prophecy concerning famine, into brackets, shortage of food, due to world war. On 19th December 2021, Prophet Abraham Lawrence Malco prophesied about world war, which will lead to global famine. According to the servant of God, the famine will be so severe because he is seeing reefs of famished people. The man of God was seeing this since 2019 and released it to the public on 19th December 2021. These were his words.
I'm sad, very miserable. Anytime you are like this, you know what is happening in the spiritual realm. Of late, I don't know why this thing is troubling me. When I close my eyes, this is what I'm seeing. When I close my eyes, this is what I'm seeing. The world is going to face something shortly. Your money will not save you. Publication will save you. Shortly. So I'm asking, why is this going to lead to third world war? What? Why? What is this? What is this coming? And at this time, the First World War, Second World War, I don't know how, but First World War, I believe it lasts for how many years? I think 4 years. Second World War, I think 6 years or so. This third war, I'm praying. I'm praying. Let me hear something better. We hear something better. Let me hear something better. What is going to lead to this? Serious. Serious. Can you stand? Can you stand? Can you stand? Can you stand? It's not something joke. It's not something joke. It's not something joke. Anyway, the way everybody is seeing. People are start prophesying the next year. I don't know. But this is what I also say. See, why am I seeing this continuously? I don't know how it's going to happen. But it should be beyond our strength. It should be beyond our wisdom. It should be beyond our faith. Yeah. I'm crying because now some war is going to start. Soon, war. Why am I seeing people reap like this? What is this? What is this am I seeing all over? Where people are struggling before they eat. Why this thing? Is it famine? I'm seeing. Why this? Why this slaughter all coming soon? Coming soon. If Christ did not save you, nobody can save you. Nobody can save you. Even though if they know that you have more, it becomes a crime. You say, hey, this. If Christ did not save you, nobody can save you.
On 31st December 2021, during the Calquans crossover service, Prophet Abraham Lawrence Malco again delivered a prophetic message concerning famine, into brackets, shortage of food, and the trouble, into brackets, world war, that will befall the world. These were his words.
Famine is at hand. Prepare. Famine is at hand. Food is at hand. Trouble is at hand. Challenges is at hand. Prepare. Famine is at hand. Famine. Famine is at hand. Famine, shortage of food is at hand. Prepare, that's a word. Prepare. Prepare. Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret thing belongs to God. When He reveal it to you, belong to you. Work on it. When you read Genesis 41, we read it carefully. The Bible said Pharaoh had what? A dream. He couldn't understand the dream. Joseph said, Pharaoh, the 2 times dream you had all are the same. Why is it 2 times? God is telling you that this thing has established in heaven that it will happen. So now Pharaoh, the king, said, Joseph, so what you are saying now, what shall we do? Joseph said, there will be plenty food for 7 years. After 7 years, there will be a famine, shortage of food for another 7 years. Can you see the wisdom of God? Can you see the wisdom of God? Instead of God to bring the famine first, He bring what? The plenty food first, thinking that we should use our wisdom to what? To escape from that danger. What's our wisdom? So now Pharaoh said, Joseph, what are we going to do? He said, no, king, do you know something? Yes, we are going to farm, and then after that we are going to buy food and store. That time we can what? Survive. And then they did as Joseph interprets. What is going to happen? Only the children of God will escape. Because this thing is not by anything but it's God who is trying to what? Do his own screening. God wants to do screening. Challenge will come. The challenge is going to be tough. After that, there will be enjoyment. What I have seen, there will be a tough challenge. There will be a tough, small, great, rich, poor will be affected. The people will not be affected, those who under the umbrella of God. So prepare. So prepare. So prepare. It's going to affect the great, small, rich, poor, short, tall. There. People will say, yes, indeed, there's a God. Those who don't believe in God, they will know that indeed God. They will say it. And that those who belong to God, it's not you say that, are you a child of God? No. You see it reality. That no, this woman is a child of God.
And now to the war that is causing some of this food crisis. Russia bombed several key Ukrainian cities today, including Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. It has been under fire since the first day of the invasion, and its proximity to the border makes it an easy target for Russian artillery. But newly delivered Western weapons are helping Ukraine slow down the Russian advance. Special correspondent Volodymyr Solohub and videographer Bohdan Kineshchuk look at life on the front lines.
Afterward, they camouflage the howitzers to avoid Russian drones. But they know they'll have to fire again soon. The fighting in this war never seems to stop. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Volodymyr Solohub in Kharkiv, Ukraine.
Belarusian military could soon join war in Ukraine. The US and NATO believe that Belarus could soon join Russia in its war against Ukraine. US and NATO officials tell CNN and that the country is already taking steps to do so. It is increasingly likely that Belarus will enter the conflict. A NATO military official said on Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin needs support, given the implications of another country joining the war. A senior NATO intelligence official said separately that the alliance assesses that the Belarusian government is preparing the environment to justify a Belarusian offensive against Ukraine. Russia has launched its attack on Ukraine, in part from Belarus's territory, and thousands of Russian troops amassed in Belarus ahead of the Kremlin's invasion of Ukraine last month, which the two countries had claimed was for training exercises. US and European sanctions in response to the war have targeted both Russian and Belarusian officials, including Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. The NATO military official said that a final decision for Belarus's involvement in the war still has to be made in Moscow. As of yet, there has been no indication that Belarusian forces are participating in the fighting in Ukraine. It is not about what Lukashenko wants, the official explained. The question is, does Putin want another unstable country in the region? Involvement would destabilize Belarus, the official said. President Joe Biden said on Monday that Russia's false accusations that Kiev has biological and chemical weapons illustrated that the Russian leader was considering using them himself.
Now we have this problem that has come up and it's causing food shortages across the world, not just food, but in Europe. Europe is threatened. The oil supplies are threatened. Their food supplies are also threatened. Even in Ghana, I am told that a lot of the iron rods, etc., that we import come from Russia and Ukraine. And so we're going to see that impact cost of housing. In Nigeria, as I mentioned, the fact that they import a lot of their wheat from Ukraine itself has become a threat to the economy. The food security is threatened because of that. So it's not just that Ghana is suffering because there are things that have happened globally that has put us in the spot. And I can tell you that if not for some of the measures that government took during the pandemic period to preserve lives and livelihoods, we would have been in a much worse state.
Now, Director at Crop Services of the Ministry for Food and Agriculture, Seth Osei-Akoto, is not certain the country will achieve maximum food security this year. Speaking on the sidelines of an organic fertilizer producers engagement, he said the uncertainty in the country's food production was occasioned by the scarcity of inorganic fertilizers on the market.
Director for Crop Services at the Ministry for Food and Agriculture, Seth Osei-Akoto, told TV3 he doubts if Ghana will be food sufficient this year, hence importation of some staple crops.
Even the fertilizer that we are talking about 50 to 60% are used in the 5 regions in the northern part of the country. So since their season hasn't started, wait till when you do the assessment of fertilizers that are going there, vis-a-vis what we are already giving to the relevant regions down south, that is when you can probably come with a forecast. That whether as a country you are going to be able to meet our food status, or you are going to rely on importation of the basic cereals.
Now, senior high schools in the Upper West region are yet to receive the food promised to them by the Ministry of Education. As a result of the food shortage, the students have now continuously been fed with tuozafi, rice and groundnut soup, which is against the original school dining hall menu. Joining us, Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports that the quality and quantity of the food has also been reduced, forcing the students to study in hunger.
Since the food have been shortage, we have been suffering from our school. Even our study is not going normal. As there is in the normal breakfast, when we go to take breakfast, there is not even a little drop of sugar. There is not any sugar for you. We normally take it raw, which is affecting us.
Because when you don't have something in your stomach, definitely you can't learn.
looking at it too, if you don't have anything in your stomach and outside there is also hard, definitely our parents cannot get us what we need in order to study. That is the food aspect. So looking at it, in fact, we are really dying. Most of our students are not even yet reported because of the shortage of food. For the past 2 months, we have been taking TZ as supper. Every evening we are taking TZ. Now when you look at it, just today,
what were you taking?
We're taking, normally we used to take Banku, we used to take TZ, but nowadays it's only TZ.
Okay, for the supper, as we expect to eat TZ today evening, but the afternoon time, our headmaster, he announced to us that when we go to the food shop, that there is not any corn for us to take TZ again, that we will eat. It's only rice, and the rice we eat the rice until we get very.
The shortage, according to the students, also led to the quantity and quality of the food being reduced.
Remember, the man of God prophesied that it will be a global famine. No one, both great and small, rich and poor, will escape by any human effort except by the divine grace and wisdom of God. Once again, let us hear his words.
There will be a tough challenge. There will be a tough, small, great, rich, poor will be affected. The people will not be affected, those who under the umbrella of God.
Remember, the man of God said, both great and small, none will escape without God's grace and wisdom. Let us watch what is currently happening in some of the superpowers as well, especially in USA, as the servant of God had prophesied.
Food prices in the US soared to record heights in February 2022. Global food prices also followed suit, posting a 20.7% increase compared to last year.
It's particularly severe because we are just coming out of a recovery from a 2.5 year pandemic that had severe implications on the price of goods and services as well as the price of commodities. If the Ukrainians can't plant right now and can't get their wheat in the ground, it does mean that the 2022 planting season will not yield much if they get some in, or the size harvest that the world is anticipating.
The war in Ukraine is putting a massive strain on the global food supply. The chief of UN World Food Program warned that a potential global food crisis might be on the horizon on a scale not seen since World War II. Prices for raw materials like ammonia, nitrogen, nitrate, phosphate, potash, and sulfate saw a 30% increase compared to the start of 2022.
Russia and Belarus are big exporters of fertilizers in the world, and fertilizer prices have been very high. Natural gas prices have been very high, and natural gas is a feedstock for nitrogen-based fertilizer.
In response, food costs have climbed to its highest level in nearly 2 years, while prices for commodities like wheat and corn have reached the highest it's been in a decade. The U.S. Department of Agriculture predicts that food-at-home prices will see an increase of up to 4% by the end of 2022.
The United States is already experiencing very high inflation on food and energy prices. There is no question that the war in Ukraine will accelerate the increase in prices in both commodities, that is food, the bread you buy in your grocery store, the gasoline that you have to put in your car or truck.
Russia's war on Ukraine is pushing the world's most vulnerable countries into a food security crisis. Many of these states are in Africa, which rely heavily on Russia and Ukraine for wheat, fertilizer, and vegetable oil imports. Earlier this week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told the African Union the situation is catastrophic.
Africa is actually a hostage. It is a hostage of those who unleashed war against our state. If it wasn't for the Russian war, people in Africa, people in Asia, and elsewhere in the world would not suffer from the catastrophic rise in food prices.
Hunger levels around the world are at a new high. A whopping 49 million people in as many as 43 countries are today facing emergency levels of hunger. The number of severely food insecure people has doubled in just 2 years, from 135 million pre-pandemic to 276 million as on date. More than 500,000 people are experiencing famine conditions, which is an increase of over 500% increase since 2016. Now, this seismic hunger crisis has been caused by a deadly combination of factors like conflict, climate change, the COVID pandemic, and not to forget the rising costs worldwide. The war in Ukraine has particularly drastically reduced global supply and triggered price rise increases, threatening to tip tens of millions of people over the edge into food insecurity, followed by malnutrition, mass hunger, and also famine, a crisis that could last for years.
High rates of hunger have a devastating impact on individuals, families, and societies. Children may suffer the lifetime effects of stunting. Millions of women and children will become malnourished. Girls will be pulled from school and forced to work or get married. And families will embark on dangerous journeys across continents just to survive.
As the war in Ukraine continues and the risk of global food shortages grow, the UN Secretary General warns of an unprecedented wave of hunger and destitution if the crisis is not addressed. But can a looming food catastrophe be averted? Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Rida Fakhri. Russia and Ukraine supply nearly 30% of global wheat exports, as well as significant amounts of other commodities. How much of last year's crops still in storage and this year's crops yet to be harvested will reach global markets remains to be seen. Record rises in fuel prices have exacerbated the situation. The crisis is also made worse by climate change. Crop yields are falling globally, and there are more dire predictions. Already this year, extreme heat has severely damaged crops in India, another major exporter of wheat, leading the government to ban exports, which has caused further price hikes. One of the countries that have been most affected by the global food crisis is Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation and the world's second largest importer of wheat.
Now, this war that is unfolding in Ukraine is actually rewriting history and is paving the way for a new world order. Millions of people have been displaced, and economic fallout due to this war continues without any solution in sight, like the food crisis that is looming across the world. Now, we're talking of a crisis, but many countries are already facing the ramifications of this food crisis that has been sparked by Russian invasion into Ukraine. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin regarding this issue. He accepted that this issue exists, but he's refused to take the fault for it. Moscow blames this entire crisis on Western sanctions on Russia.
Poi io ho terminato dicendo che poi dovrò chiamare il presidente Zelensky e vedere se c'è un'analoga disponibilità a procedere in questa direzione. È un'iniziativa che ho sentito il dovere di prendere per la gravità della crisi umanitaria che può toccare poi i più poveri del mondo. Speriamo. Ma a me interessa una questione più definita, più piccola, che è quella di cercare di vedere se si riescono a sbloccare questi enormi quantitativi di grano nei porti del Mar Nero, nei porti dell'Ucraina del Mar Nero.
Now, this is how it is actually playing out. War in one country would affect trade and diplomacy globally unless you are the United States of America, which believes in hoarding, whether it be COVID-19 vaccines or food imports. But for the rest of the world, they are waiting for the crisis to in fact explode. Because Ukraine happens to be one of the largest exporters of wheat, corn, sunflower oil and also fertilizers. But with ports having been blocked, much of that flow to the rest of the world has been halted. Russia itself is a significant grain exporter, but this blockade is a form of a revenge. Putin is hitting back against the barrage of sanctions that have been imposed on Russia by the West. But this blame game is not going to help end the crisis. When the West imposes sanctions, it knew about the consequences that were to come with it. And this is just one amongst the consequences that is now hitting the rest of the world. So does that mean that the United States and its allies were not prepared with a plan B? The Washington has said that food, fertilizer and seeds are exempted from sanctions, which is why there shouldn't be a shortage. But does the West expect Russia to be reasonable here? Did the United States really believe that Russia will send grains to the same countries that are inflicting financial losses on the nation? The World Trade Organization says that nearly about 25 million tons of grain are in Ukraine's storage, and another 25 million tons could be harvested by next month. European countries have tried to export the grains by rail, but trains can only carry a small fraction of what Ukraine produces. The truth is, ships are needed for the bulk of the exports, and that is only possible once the war ends. But with 3 months having been done the war and the 4th month ongoing, the uncertainty as to when this war will end and when will the food crisis that has been sparked by this war be eased are questions for which no one has an immediate answer.
Take note, this is just the beginning of what man of God, Prophet Abraham Lawrence Malco, had prophesied. Prepare, famine is at hand. We believe you have been inspired by the clip you have just watched. Subscribe to witness more of God's power and work in our generation today, and stay up to date with the latest prophecies, deliverances, service and testimonies from Christ Almighty Liberty Church of All Nations, Kalkwan Ministries, converting lives, converting nations, and converting the world. To support the work of God or partner with the servant of God, Prophet Abraham Lawrence Malco, Bank, EcoBank Ghana, account name Abraham Lawrence Malco, branch Tema Community 25, account number 3441 002 216 304, worldwide, code Swift code EcoGAG, sort code 130125, account number 1441 002 604 887 within Ghana. Momo line +233 into bracket 0 244 899248. God bless you for promoting the kingdom of God.